Let's take a minute to hear a word from our sponsor for this week's Ag Report, Elite Tire.
Elite Tire and Automotive. Ever have one of those days and just need a little hand? Well, with our remote services, we'll just hop right on it. Get you back on the road quick and easy. With automotive services to cover all your mechanical needs. Need that state inspection done? Well, we can do that too. So roll on in and see a friendly face. Give us a call and we can be right on the spot to assist you. So trust the friendly folks down at Elite Tire and Automotive, 972-775-1055.
Now let's join our host, John Poldenine, in the studio with this week's Ag Report.
Howdy, folks. Welcome to this week's Ag Report. So this week, going to have a little different topic. Andrew asked me, he had a friend, they were doing some driving school, and it raised the question to him. He said, John Paul, he said, what was, driver's ed or driving school? What did that look like for you back in the day? And for farm kids, that kind of stuff. So I thought I'd share with you a little bit about my driver's education, kind of where that started and what that kind of looked like. So I was probably about 9 years old, something like that, 8 years old. And my driving started in a hayfield. So in those days, most hay was done in little square bales, especially if you had horses, that kind of stuff. There were some round bales coming out. They were starting to get popular, but there were still a lot of little square bales. And in those days, there were no bale bandits or bale barons or grapplers or anything like that. It was all done by hand. So that meant you had a person or two on a wagon or a trailer, and you had a person or two walking in the field. And then you had somebody driving either a truck or a tractor alongside of all those little bales, and they'd be laid like bricks, kind of in a little bit of a line. And so anyways, that's where my driver's ed started. They would start the truck up, put a feed sack kind of behind me because I was a little bit short and couldn't quite reach things. The pedal in those days, the clutch was manual, so it wasn't an easy soft clutch. So I couldn't push it in. It was too hard for me. So they'd get it down into gear, and they would start it up and get it going. And then I could sit there and steer, and I'd drive it, alongside the bales and stuff like that. Whenever I needed to stop, you just turn the key off, and then they'd walk up there and see what was going on. So that's kind of where my first start of driving was in the hayfield. So a couple of years later, we lived in the community of Boz, and not a lot of folks out there, not a lot of folks coming to town. And so my first road driving, when I was probably 10, maybe 11, something like that, was driving from the house to town. There was a wide spot in the road where a TxDOT place is, and so we could always change over there before we got into town. And then going back home, that's where we would change, and I'd get to drive home. And so we'd usually put something behind me so I could scoot forward enough to reach pedals, because again, remember, these were back in the days when you had a bench seat. So Dad couldn't really slide that bench seat all the way forward for me to touch them pedals really good, because he'd be kind of up in the glove box or in the dash of the old truck. And I guess I should explain for those of y'all, a bench seat means the whole entire thing moves forward or moves backward. It's kind of like a giant couch. It wasn't your six-way power adjustable seats that you have nowadays in there. And there was no tilt steering. So, we had great big steering wheel, kind of up in here. And one of the key things you had to learn was, there wasn't sport tuned steering like there is now. Okay. So a skill you had to learn on the roads was doing this right here to go straight, because there was slack in the steering wheel. And so to go straight, you had to do this right here. And that took practice. You couldn't just hold it straight and think you were going straight, because you'd be headed off, crossing the lane or what have you. And so anyways, we'd drive. That was where my first road driving was. And so one of those trips to town where the wide spot in the road was, we're coming down there. Well, we happened to pass a highway patrolman. He turns around there and pulls over, and I pull into the wide spot, and he gets out. My dad gets out, and he's like, "Okay, I see the boy driving. Just be sure y'all pull off, to the wide spot good, and put your blinkers on when you change out." And so he thought it was pretty good that we were practicing driving back and forth to the country. So, but that's kind of a glimpse into, I'm sure a lot of other farm kids can probably, tell you things about their days learning to drive. And I kind of almost forgot to tell you. So, when I did take driver's ed, the Super Collider had come, and there was no more Boz community. So we had moved to town, and I was mowing yards and everything. So my driving time during driver's ed, which was still given by the school, and usually we had coaches that were our drivers and their teachers, that kind of stuff. So my driving time during driver's ed was driving around checking on my yards in town. So I would go around and I'd have my list, and I'd kind of check them off. And so that's how I got my hours in driver's ed, was checking on the yards in town. So anyways, kind of fun to look back on. Times change, and don't know that you could do that kind of stuff anymore, but that's kind of what we did growing up. And I figure I always tell my kids, if you can learn to drive on an old truck that's wore out and do good, you're going to be able to drive anything nowadays. So hope y'all have enjoyed this little glimpse at ag driving school, and I hope y'all didn't laugh too much or chuckle. So who knows, maybe y'all were one of the ones that passed me on the road and waved as we went by. Y'all take care.